God of War 3 Remastered is an epic, single-player, third-person action-adventure game. In it, you play as the demigod Kratos, battling all manner of monsters, titans, and gods, carving a bloody path across ancient Greece as you seek vengeance on the gods of Mount Olympus. When God of War 3 originally released back in 2010, it set a new high bar for action-adventure games. I remember being amazed by the incredible scope and epic boss battles. It was incredibly gory and pushed the boundaries of its M rating as much as any Grand Theft Auto game. I hadn't seen anything quite like it before, and it stood as one of my favorite games on the PS3. Now, more than 5 years later, God of War 3 Remastered still stands as the king of action-adventure games and feels every bit as impressive on PS4. God of War 3 features one of the most robust combat systems ever made. You can get by with button mashing on the easier difficulties, but you'll need to learn the nuances of every weapon if you want to survive the harder modes. Throughout the game, you'll earn several unique weapons and abilities, all of which can be upgraded using red orbs you find from killing enemies and opening chests. The upgrade system is fairly straightforward, and you should have no problem maxing out everything well before the final boss. The combat itself is fast and fluid, and the controls are consistently responsive. There are tons of attacks and combos you can perform, and they're all fairly easy to learn. Each one doesn't just look cool, but also has situational functionality, and enemies later in the game will require you to think about what moves will be most effective against their defenses. You'll also need to use your own block and dodge moves to protect yourself as you wait for harder enemies to open themselves up for attack. Timing really becomes key, and luckily, the game introduces you to each new enemy type and teaches you new game mechanics at the perfect pace. It's a combat system that's both fun to learn and rewarding to master. During combat, many of the larger enemies will become stunned when they've taken enough damage, and when you see a big circle icon above their head, you can grab them and finish them off in a multitude of violent, bloody ways. Whether you're cutting off their heads or ripping out their intestines, it feels very satisfying to conquer a large foe, especially one that's been giving you trouble. Of course, no action game would be complete without a good boss fight, and God of War 3 has some of the most memorable, impossibly large bosses you've ever seen. Each boss battle feels unique and exciting, and has some new pattern or weakness for you to learn. They're never too hard or confusing, although some of the bosses can become a little frustrating on the harder difficulties, especially when they perform attacks that seem to fill the entire screen. Still, nothing ever feels cheap or will make you throw your controller in frustration. The level design in God of War 3 deserves just as much credit as the combat. There's a wide variety of gorgeous environments to explore, and each area feels distinct. Interspersed between fights are clever little puzzles for you to solve. They're mostly short and fairly easy to solve and don't intrude on the gameplay. They're fun and don't wear out their welcome, although a couple of the final puzzles had solutions that seemed a little nonsensical and had me shaking my head after I figured them out. Still, the combination of interesting level design, fast-paced combat, and clever little puzzles creates just the right amount of variety to keep any one aspect from feeling stale, resulting in an adventure that's non-stop fun. Although none of the in-game assets have been retouched, the visuals in God of War 3 hold up really well on the PS4. The resolution and frame rate have been improved, along with the lighting, but that's about it for this remaster. However, the art and character design are so strong, that's really all you need. Combine that with the epic soundtrack and the unbelievably gigantic titans, and you can see why this game is still unrivaled. That's not to say everything in God of War 3 Remastered is perfect. There are occasionally glitchy textures, which I can only assume are a side effect of the porting process from PS3 to PS4. Also, there are some platforming sections that can become frustrating. Since you don't control the camera, sometimes maneuvering Kratos where he needs to go can be troublesome, leading to some unfair deaths. In fact, I died more times because of bad platforming than against any single enemy. Speaking of enemies, it seems to me that Kratos is the real villain in this game. Now, the story itself is well written and fairly straightforward. Kratos wants revenge on Zeus, and he's willing to go to the ends of the earth to get it, killing anyone in his way. The dialogue is well written, and the characters are all very well acted and animated. But Kratos himself, the protagonist, is just a completely unlikable asshole. Throughout the game, characters will warn Kratos that his revenge will have devastating effects on the entire population, and Kratos just ignores them and murders everyone indiscriminately, all the while seething with rage and blaming everyone else for the death of his family that he himself murdered. Still, all that aside, God of War 3 Remastered is an excellent game. Kratos' adventure will take you about 8 to 10 hours to complete, and when you're done, you'll unlock harder difficulty modes, challenge maps, and cool bonus features like new costumes and behind-the-scenes videos. Overall, God of War 3 Remastered is the pinnacle of action-adventure games, and if you missed this on the PS3, you owe it to yourself to play this on PS4.